Imagine walking onto your own land, your dream property, and having the police show up because someone doesn't think you belong there. That's exactly what happened to me when I moved to my new coastal estate. But there was one thing the nosy neighbor didn't know. I'm not just a homeowner. I'm a retired attorney with decades of courtroom experience. And what happened next? Let's just say her little neighborhood watch group didn't stand a chance. A couple of years ago, I purchased a beautiful coastal estate just outside a small, upscale community. I wanted a quiet retreat, a place to enjoy the ocean breeze and escape the chaos of city life. The property was perfect, sprawling, private, and, most importantly, outside the jurisdiction of the local neighborhood watch group, which functioned like a pseudo HOA. I did my homework. I checked the deeds, consulted with my real estate lawyer, and confirmed there were no covenants, no dues, no restrictions tying my land to their rules. I was free and clear, but freedom, it turns out, wasn't something the head of the neighborhood watch, let's call her Susan, was willing to accept. Susan was the kind of person who thrived on control. She was the self-proclaimed guardian of the community, always armed with a clipboard and a smug smile. The first time I pulled up to my property in my truck, ready to start renovations, Susan was waiting. She stood in my driveway, hands on hips, like she owned the place. "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" she demanded. I calmly explained that I was the new owner, here to start work on my home. She laughed a sharp, condescending laugh and said, "This area is under our neighborhood watch. You can't just do whatever you want." I tried to keep things civil. I showed her the deed, pointed out the property lines, and explained that my land wasn't part of her jurisdiction. But Susan wasn't interested in facts. Before I could finish, she was on her phone, calling the sheriff's department, claiming I was a trespasser. I waited, unfazed. When the deputies arrived, I handed over my ID, the property deed, and a survey map. The officers reviewed everything, looked at Susan, and said, "Ma'am, this is his property. You have no authority here." Susan's face turned red. She argued, raised her voice, and finally stormed off, muttering about standards and community rules. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, my mailbox started filling with notices from the neighborhood watch. They claimed I was in violation of their rules. My temporary construction fence was unsightly. My exterior paint color was unapproved. My landscaping plans hadn't been submitted for review. Each letter was more absurd than the last. I knew exactly what Susan was doing, trying to bully me into submission. She wanted me to bow to her authority, to join her little empire of control. But I didn't take the bait. I didn't argue or send angry letters back. Instead, I started documenting everything, every notice, every interaction, every phone call. I was building a case. Things escalated when Susan sent a certified letter threatening to file a lien on my property if I didn't comply with her demands. That was her mistake. You see, I wasn't just a homeowner. I was a retired attorney who'd spent 30 years in the courtroom, specializing in property law. I knew her threats were baseless, but I also knew she'd been terrorizing other residents for years. I started talking to my neighbors, quietly gathering stories. It turned out Susan's neighborhood watch wasn't just annoying, it was predatory. They'd been charging illegal fees, issuing fake violations, and harassing anyone who dared question their authority. One neighbor told me they paid thousands in fines to avoid legal trouble. Another said Susan had threatened to report them to the county for non-existent code violations. I decided it was time to act. I didn't tell Susan who I was or what I was planning. I didn't need to flex my credentials. Instead, I contacted my old law firm and assembled a legal team. We filed a federal lawsuit against Susan and her neighborhood watch group, alleging harassment, fraud, and abuse of power. The discovery process was a gold mine. We uncovered years of misconduct, forged documents, misappropriated funds, and a pattern of intimidation that stretched back a decade. Susan had been running her little fiefdom unchecked, assuming no one would dare challenge her. The courtroom was where I felt most at home. When the case went to trial, Susan tried to play the victim. She claimed she was just trying to protect the community and maintain high standards. But the evidence told a different story. We presented stacks of fraudulent notices, testimony from harassed neighbors, and financial records showing how Susan had funneled fines into her personal accounts. The judge wasn't impressed. In the end, the court ruled in our favor. The neighborhood watch was dissolved, its assets seized, and Susan was ordered to pay restitution to the affected residents. She was also barred from holding any leadership Role in a community organization for 15 years dollars for me. I'm still living on my coastal estate. The ocean breeze is just as refreshing as I had hoped, and my home was exactly how I wanted. No fences, no paint colors, no landscaping plans submitted for approval. The neighborhood is quieter now, not just because Susan's gone, but because people feel free. They're not looking over their shoulders, worried about the next violation notice. Susan thought she could intimidate me, thought I was just another newcomer she could push around. She didn't know I was the law, or at least someone who knew how to use it, and I used it to shut her down for good. Conclusion: that's the story of how I took on a power-hungry neighborhood watch and won. If you're dealing with an overreaching HOA or a bully like Susan, don't let them scare you. Know your rights, document everything, and don't be afraid to fight back. Sometimes the law is on your side, you just have to know how to use it.